Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is Mario with MyersVoiceover.com as well as Your Outdoor Adventures. We are located on Facebook, Facebook groups, Your Outdoor Adventures. Today's video is going to be a custom build. We are doing an order for Brian Levesque. He has put an order in. The reason we call it custom is because we are not going to be laying it out like the typical usual build, which is nice, just runs through, everything's already set, and I don't have to worry about trying to lay it all out all over again. Brian's box is going to be different. We are running 4 individual switches for 4 individual plug-and-play SAE ports. We are going to be doing the voltmeter with a 10 block fuse and or 10 fuse block instead of a 6 fuse block. We are going to do dual USB ports, both quick chargers, 3.0s. They'll both run off of one individual switch as well as their own power switches on the ports themselves, a cigarette lighter, and the voltmeter with 2 LEDs. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys do like the videos, please hit like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments below, questions, comments, anything. If you have an interest in getting a power pack for yourself from us, please feel free to reach out and get a hold of us. We'll be more than happy to go ahead and provide you one. Thank you very much for tuning in, and let's get to the build.
Okay, so for this build, I'm just going to go ahead and read off the parts that we're going to be using and the tools. Then we'll go ahead and I'll actually have them broken down and listed for you in the comment section below the video. So we have the wire stripper crimpers purchased at Home Depot. We have the Phillips head screwdriver, the metal master snips. That's going to be for cutting the inside of the box, removing some of the molding. You'll see that in the video. The razor is going to be doing the same thing, just cleaning up the molding. Small metal snips are going to be for cutting smaller pieces of the plastic inside we can't get to. Size 8 socket, that's going to be to attach the fuse block. We're going to be attaching that with a 6x32 by 1 inch bolt. That'll be held in place by a 6x32 stainless steel nut. We'll also have on there the 4 SAE ports. We're going to be using a 1-inch drill bit for the SAE ports. We have the 3/4 inch drill bit that is going to be for the switches. We'll have a 1 1/8 thin wall hole saw. That's going to be for the accessory ports. The 2 LED lights will be added. We will be using the 3/8 drill bit for the LED lights. The 2 dual USB ports, the voltmeter, the cigarette lighter adapter, positive and negative 14 gauge wire, 10 amp fuses. We're going to have the 18 to 14 gauge ring studs. We're going to be using the red female spades for the positive, the blue female spades for the negative, and a 9/64 drill bit for the fuse block bolts. And for the next section, what we're going to do, we're just going to go through and get it all marked out, get a diagram, figure out where we're going to put everything on the box itself. As you can see, I already got the 4 ports the 4 switches started, so we know we're going to go there, mark those, get those out of the way. And that's where we're going to put our switches. Now with the switches, we know they're going to fill about 3/4 of an inch. Next, we're going to have the SEA ports running. We want each one of these to be individual per switch. So we're going to run this one about right there. Yeah, that's it. Those look good. Alright, so we've got our 4 switches, we've got our 4 ports. We know we're going to be putting 2 lights on. Lights are going to be real simple. We'll just drop the lights about an inch down underneath the hinge. Okay, this is where it's going to be interesting because this is where we have to lay everything out. We need to decide how we're going to go ahead and get it situated. We know we need to have the voltmeter on there. We know that we're going to have the cigarette lighter. We're going to have a USB here possibly, and a USB here possibly, with a switch here. We need another switch here. That'll be for the main power itself. So we'll have one switch going to both the USBs. I'm still going to need to get a switch for the LEDs and the cigarette lighter. Let me go ahead and play with this a little bit, see what I can figure out, and I'll be back on shortly. Okay, so we've got everything marked out now. Everything's ready to be cut and prefabbed for the accessories and the ports and then the wiring. So we've got our 4 switches. We're going to run the 4 SEA ports. They're running about 2 3/4 off the bottom. We've got our 2 LED lights. I know you guys really can't see these, but they're just really marked with a fine marker so that way I can see them. Now, the top was tricky. So the way we're going to set this is we're going to have the main power switch here for the entire box. When you turn this switch on, that's going to turn on the voltmeter, so we'll know how much of a charge we have in the battery. We are going to have 3 switches here, 2 USB here, here, and the 1 cigarette lighter here. This switch is going to be for both dual USBs. This switch will be for the cigarette lighter, and this switch will be for the LEDs we're going to put on the box. I'll be back here in a second with the rest of the tools, and we're going to start doing some cutting. Okay, so we've got everything ready. We're going to go ahead now. The first couple drills I'm going to run, or first couple holes I'm going to run, are going to be relatively simple. We're going to run the LEDs. We're going to cut some for the switches. All this top stuff you see here, this is what the wire snips, or the tin snips, and all the little tools are for. When we get into the lid, I'm going to show you, you're actually going to have to remove this molding that's in here. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get a good solid cut. I should have gone with a deeper drill bit. It would have been nicer, would have gone right through, but because I went with the short one, I have to actually cut those. In the meantime, let's get in the video. I know I appreciate you guys being here watching it. Once again, if you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to go ahead and throw that stuff below. I'm going to make sure these just drop in the way they're supposed to. Alright, for the switches on the front side, we're going to be switching over to the 3/4 inch drill bit. Now, I've learned the hard way with this, guys. Be gentle with the thin walls, because I've had some where it's cracked the plastic and ruined the entire job. We've got the holes preset for the switches. Clean that up a little bit. Okay, can't cut any of those yet. Can't cut any of those yet. We can go ahead and get these switches in. Now, Brian decided he wanted to go with all green on his build. Alright, we got them all in there. They're not straight. That's not a problem. I'm going to straighten them out right now. we've got 4 nice green switches on there. Okay, next we are going to do the SEA ports, or the SAE ports, sorry. These, I'm going to go ahead and just speed this up real quick. I'm going to go ahead and clean this out. I'll take a picture of it or a video, show you what it looks like afterwards, and then we'll get everything in there instead of just sitting here making you watch it all as I do the cleaning, because this literally takes a minute. We're going to have to cut this hole. Let me show you. We're going to have to go ahead and remove this whole section, this whole section, this piece here, and we should be okay to work from there. So I'll be back on in a moment. Okay, so I went ahead and I got everything started. We got the SAE ports. I'm never going to get that right. Got those cut out. What I wanted to do was I wanted to show you guys what I actually have to deal with when I'm going through and working on the top piece. As you can see, I've already had to start destroying this. I've already gone ahead and made my cuts through here, made my cuts on here and through here. Now we just need to go through and remove all the big pieces that we can. That's what I use these middle snips for. Might as well just go ahead and destroy it, because you're not using any of this plastic again. Just make sure you don't go through the lid on it. Okay, so we've got most of that. Where are my little snips at? I use these little snips for a lot of the just pulling the parts out. And then, like I said, with the fine tuning, you see right here all these little pieces that are in here. If I can get that in there for you, all that little mess. Literally just go through and snip it right on the case. So that way it's flush. So that way when I do drill through, I'm going to have a nice, easy cut. I'll show that to you next. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of these out, and I'll be back on. I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch as I cut all this out. Okay, so I've cleaned out most of the lid. We're going to go ahead and run the drill through and at least get the holes started. That'll let me know if I need to clean up anything else on the inside. Sorry, let me get this under the camera for you. We're going to go ahead and drill these holes out. Find out if there's anything else on the inside we need to clean out. This is relatively fit. So, comment below, if you had a power box, or if you wanted a power box, what would you be using it for? The current uses that we know of, we got guys that are using it on their kayaks, got a couple friends that are truck camping, have a couple other friends that have used it just regular camping. Got a friend that bought hers for emergency power around the house, in case we're in Georgia, so we get some decent storms. She wanted something to be able to have as an option to charge the phones, flashlight, everything included. Okay, so our lid's been cleaned out, pre-cut. We're ready to go ahead and drop the parts on. The fuse block is going to go here, the voltmeter is going to go here. The voltmeter I'm going to have to twist or bend the ends a little bit to get clearance under the fuse block. Now, the way this fuse block sits in here, okay, see, I've got to take out that as well, because right now it is not sitting flush. If I help till I get it in the camera, sorry guys. Okay, right now it's not sitting flush. It'll be okay on the back side. It's not going to be over here okay on there. We're just going to go ahead and clean that out. You can see it's a perfect fit. It literally sits right in there. And now the fuse block just slides right in there perfectly. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and get the accessories and switches dropped in. And I'll just show you what I did for these accessories with the way that Sheffield did their lid and put these notches in here for stacking purposes. This and this, they removed the option where you see on the previous box, I was able to use and utilize that entire corner. Now I can't. So what I've had to do is the screw-in portion, or the nut, if you will, for the accessory ports. Now, like this is the dual USB. With this dual USB sitting right here, you can see that clearance and how close this is. I actually had to go through and see if I can show you the difference here. Okay, so this one is a whole one. See, it's got all the ridges. What I had to do was go through and use the razor blade, cut some of these off, so I can go ahead and get these to drop in to these, so they'll fit to hold those in. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and drop these in, and we're ready to go ahead and start working with the rest of it. Alright, I'm back, and sorry about that. The battery died on the camera, so it was a good time to clean up a little bit and get reorganized for dropping these parts in. Okay, with the voltmeter, I'm just not a fan. I normally put the voltmeter on the front of the box. You see, I've already got a prefab cut out for, oh, sorry, you can just see I already got it cut out for the next box I'm going to work on. The reason for that is I don't like bending these tabs. It's just not a fan. But you have to do it to get the clearance to be able to get the positive and negative out from underneath of the fuse block. So now that we've got all that cut, I'm actually going to go ahead and install the fuse block, or cut the fuse block out, just so I know exactly where it's going to sit hole-wise. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is bend these tabs. You gotta be really gentle with these. These snap, and this is not a cheap part to replace. You gotta wait on the male. There we go. You can see the bend over on it. Just enough that we'll be able to still get the female spade on there. Okay, so put the voltmeter in. Sometimes you got to give it a couple extra turns to find your sweet spot of where you're going to tighten up at. I try to keep everything asymmetrical. Doesn't always work. Alright, and there we go. So we're good there. Alright, now that's these switches. See what we can do with these. Do not go in super easy, by the way. Give you some nice pressure on there. Huh. So the negatives. See, now on this I'm going to have to go ahead and play with that negative. Okay, so all three of those. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these put in, and I'll come back and show you after I get it put on. Okay, so as you can see, we've got all the components now installed. What I like to do first, go through and I'm just going to run a test on all of them, make sure that we got power from the battery. You see the battery's already connected, we're good there. We're just going to go ahead and run the positive and negative, double check on all the switches, make sure everything is good, everything powers up. Basically just taking the two live, going negative, positive. I don't know if you can see that light underneath when it lights up. Okay, you can see that light, very good, and that's what you're looking for. That's the voltmeter. And then we've got our switches. I've already actually checked all these, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Just know that, yes, they all did work. They all powered up, so we're good there. And disconnect the battery. And the next thing we're going to do is start wiring. For the wiring for the lights, you'll see on here, very, very, very tiny. They don't take a lot of power. So I just strip these back until we get to down to about all the way into here, so that way I have enough room to play with. I'll move the wiring around, I'll twist it down later on. So we're going to go ahead and we have to measure out some wiring. Battery's going to sit over here. We know that we have mainly our power is going to be sitting over here. We need to make sure we have enough room to get from the battery terminal over to the fuse block. And then from the voltmeter to the fuse block, it's going to be real nice and simple. We're just going to come up and tie it around like this. we'll go through. I'm going to show you guys, and then we'll speed the video up. We're going to tie off all our negatives first, and we're just going to do jumps on each one of them. Then we'll come back and we'll do the positives after. We're going to do the negatives first. We'll get those running for you here momentarily. Okay, so these are the thin wires coming out of the light that I was mentioning. This is the stripped backing for it. We're just going to go ahead and remove that backing, get things out of the way. I try to leave about 1/4 of an inch and then I just tuck the cord back in. Now what you'll be able to do with these, once I get that back in there, okay, you'll be able to tie these in to the existing lights already. Easiest thing for the negative is going to be to tie it and just jump the negative right off to the negative here. We'll actually be able to go ahead and store the rest of the wire over on the other side. But the jumps that I was talking about, you'll go through and you're going to jump across each one of the negatives, and all these negatives will tie into this one. All these will tie off as well. The positive will get its own independent switch over here. Every one of these will actually have its own independent positive. I'm going to go ahead and start getting to the wiring. We'll speed probably through some of this. I'll slow it down so you can see some of the work I'm doing as well, but in the meantime I'm just going to go ahead and run the camera while I'm doing this. Okay, so we know that the negative for the battery is going to be over here. The negative for the battery is going to come over and tie off to here. So we're only going to use about that much. None of this is actually measured per box because I would love to be able to pre-cut the wiring and know that it's done and out of the way, but because they're custom builds, the wiring is different lengths for each side. Okay, and then for our negative for the for the voltmeter, that is going to come off, and we'll tie the voltmeter off to this negative as well. Remember, because of this clearance and because I had to bend these tabs because of the way that this is going to sit, I'm actually going to feed all my wiring up and underneath through these slots. So we know that we need to go ahead and jump onto the negative that's coming from there as well. Give ourselves a little bit of room to play with into the negative. And that right there is going to be sufficient for the voltmeter itself. Now while we have the voltmeter available, we're just going to go ahead and tie these ends off. And you'll see it'll actually just tie in to the negative just like this, and it'll be an up and out of the way. For the positive side, the positive side of the voltmeter, we're going to be running from the voltmeter to the bolt right here, and then the power from here to the positive, but it'll actually be for the main power switch, which is going to be this switch. Get you back in camera. This switch over here is going to be the power switch for the entire block. So we're going to go from the positive side of the battery. Now you'll see the length on this cord, because we're going all the way to the on switch for here. We need the full length. Still go ahead and give it a little bit of playroom, because we're going to be coming and we want to tie down onto it. That's going to go all the way over to our battery. So we're good there. We've got our negative here to tie in. And now we're going to run from the voltmeter to here, so we can go ahead and get these three switches are set as well. These three switches, once again, we're going to be having, this is going to set up for the USB, the cigarette lighter, and the LEDs. So we're going to need three positives. These positives are going to go directly to each one of these independently, and then we're going to jump. The middle one is going to be for the fuse block itself, so that's going to come right up and tie right into it. And because we're underneath the fuse block, we want to go ahead and feed this out the easiest way we can. Still going to be following through this. Come here with it, and then up and back over to positive side here. Then we'll come back and do the jumping for the negatives here after I get these positives out of the way. I just want to get these finished out so I can put the fuse block in and be done with the fuse block. Now, I personally like to go back afterwards, throw a little bit of electrical tape on each one just as some added support. I'm doing it now with the positives because I don't want to take that fuse block off once I get it situated. sometimes you have one that doesn't want to clip on there, so we just go ahead and squeeze that shut a little more. And much better contact made. Well, on one side, not the other. I know it's because we put that bend on there. Okay, and now we're going to go from the positive on the voltmeter to the the middle switch. Trying to save as much room as we can in here. So we're going to go with about right here. Main power. So, my mistake. We're going from the voltmeter here to here. Now for on the fuse block, we're going to be using the stud rings. Perfect. Okay, so we have cigarette lighter is set up for this switch. The USB for these will be this one. Now, because we're going to be powering both of these off of this one, we need to actually jump it to this one here. So we'll need positive to positive, positive to positive, so it runs them both. Once again, because of the short wire, or the small area that we have to work with. And we'll come up into a height of about right here. Try and give you guys a better angle. We know it's the same distance, so come up. Remember, you can always cut more off. You can't add it back. Now, because we're doing a jump on here, I've got bigger female spades to run with. Just take those, give them a good twist. Make sure they're seated in there nicely. Now that's not moving. I mean, that's in there, but because I did this, and I just for the sake of time and not having to redo it later, the wire coming loose, anything along those lines. Once again, this is why I'll throw that electrical tape on there, just as some added support. Definitely need to upgrade the heating situation, because right now I'm just using a lighter. We'll still have a good connection with the bolts here. Once again, these are just going to come up and jump onto here and jump onto here. Most of the times the positive doesn't have a jump cable, it's got its own independent, but because we're doing that dual USB powered at the same time, we're going to have a jumping cable. We'll still be able to go ahead and get into these. This is going to be for the fuse block itself. We'll come back and tie those in. These are going to be our negatives. We're going to jump those across the entire time, so we don't have a problem with that. So let's go ahead and get the fuse blocks mounted. This is where the stainless steel and the 632 by 1 inch. The 1 inch haven't been an issue because I haven't had to have this issue before, so it's always fit through. This might be one of those situations where you might want to consider going slightly larger than 1 inch. We're going to find out here. If I can get this nut to sit, then we'll be good. course, this fuse block is not going to allow that. All right, be back here after a moment. Let me go ahead and take a look at this. Okay, we're back. So I had to go through. I actually ended up getting a 3/8 drill bit out and fine-tuning these two holes that I was originally using in the fuse block. The nut wouldn't fit. It does in the 6 fuse block with no issues whatsoever. This was the first time build doing it this way. So yeah, that 3/8, I had to just notch it out a little bit so I could drop the nuts in. That's now securely in place. I know we said we were going to do the negatives first, but because I had this and the positives are all underneath, I went ahead and got all that out of the way just to be done with it. I'm actually going to finish off the positives to the fuse block on this side. I'm going to start our negative jump on this side as well. There's not going to be a lot of speaking. I'm actually going to go ahead and speed through this mostly once I get started. It'll just be a quick process. And then we'll go ahead and get the other side of the box afterwards. These wires with the SAE ports, that one's going to be just slightly trickier because of the confined space that we're going to be working with. And we'll take a look at that here momentarily. Appreciate you guys sticking around. I know this video has not been short, but if you guys are looking to build a box for yourself, this is definitely the route to go. Alright, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start the fuses and the negative jumps on this side. Okay, so because we're right there on all the switches, we know this is going to be nice and quick. We're just going to use 3 pieces, cut about that big. That'll take care of these 3 switches right here. Now this will be where we will start our negative jumps. We're going to go from this negative to 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 this negative, and we're literally just going to go ahead and cut small sections just like this, and then from here to here it will jump from here to here. Each one of those will jump so it carries the current all the way through. Now with the negatives and their jumps, I do run tape on every one of these just to feel a little better about it. And that's how your jumping is going to work. Just from each one, just like that. Set up like this for your jumpers. I'm going to get this side knocked out, and then we'll come back over and we'll start re-recording when we get over to the side here. Okay guys, so Yeah, I jumped ahead in the recording. It took way too long. The jumping down here for the SAE ports with the switches has been a total bear. Just trying to get in here, the thick cord and everything else. So skipped all that. Once again, what you're doing for the purpose of the jumping, you're going to start, for this build anyway, we're starting down at the main power switch, and then we're just literally jumping over to every post. So we have jumping over to this last post here. You can see the thin wires for the LEDs. I've pulled those from in the case, and they're actually jumped right into this one. This then jumps into the cigarette lighter port. Now the cigarette lighter port, you can see, has all these wires coming out of it. This is going to be your negative wire for the battery. It's going to come all the way across. This one here is jumping to this switch here, which will go to here, to here, and to here. The other one that's coming out, this is the one that's going to the voltmeter. And so we're on our negatives now, and we're literally just jumping the, well, not even jumping, we're just running the cables over. The middle cable, again, is going to be your fuse block itself. So you'll see coming from the first one, comes right over to the fuse on this side here. The second one, I just haven't taped it off yet. We're just going to finish running these over here. Then I've got to get the power cords attached to the last two here, and it should power up with no issues. Try and bend those tabs a little bit just to give some clearance on the sides. Okay. Okay, so for the middle here, for the fuse, we're going to run over to this spot right here. We're good. Might actually shave a little bit off of that. No, we'll leave some extra on there. Never hurts to have a little extra wire, something to play with just in case you ever need to recap one of the end pieces. It's always better to have some extra wire. It's better not to have to do it at all, and make sure it stays the first time, but life happens. Okay. There's 2 positives left. Okay, for these, the SAE ports, where the wire is relatively big, you'll also have to go ahead and now we're going to be using the 12 volt 8 amp battery. It's the LiPo 4. As you can see, I mean, it's obviously not going to fit just like this. So to put the battery in, it's going to be just as simple as doing this. Let's get that last cord out of the way. All right. I was doing something backwards there. Alright, so well, this is going to make it interesting, isn't it? Okay, so with there was one part of the video, I'm going to go back and actually it's already been removed by the time I post the video. With the SAE ports here, it actually makes it difficult for this battery to sit in here because of this wiring. It's a perfect battery for the fit because this battery, once we get it in the box, you won't have to pull this battery back out again. You can literally charge it directly through the SIE ports until you're done with the battery. For the purpose of installing the battery in this, I'll go ahead and show it to you in a second. Now, as you see, we obviously jumped ahead in the video. It's a movie at this point, and you can see I've already gone ahead, run all the fuse connectors to the middle of the switches. I've already got all the fuses in the fuse block. Everything is good. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the full test on it, show you that everything works. Then we'll go through and just put some zip ties on just to clean up some of the wiring. But for the purpose of installing this battery in this box, what I literally have to do is go through and remove the first 3 cables, the second 3 cables. Now, as long as you already have this attached, to make it a whole lot easier, I found that out after I did some trying on it. You want to go ahead and you're going to press all of these up against the wall closer to you, so you can get this to go in and slide in. It fits right here. You can lay it back down. Now, you can go back and reclip the wires. So we've got the negatives. Negatives are good again. Do the middle ones. Put your power back on. Now everything's set up. We're good to go. We'll zip tie it here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and just show you guys. Alright, so we've gone ahead, zip tied this up. I was having some issues trying to close the box, and it was just because the wires weren't zip tied yet. Now that we've got it zip tied, it actually went ahead and closed easily. So we've got everything set up, fuses are good, everything's tight and wired. Real nice and simply, just take your wires, lay them down. Say that now, we just had one. There we go. So, box is fully loaded. It's probably 3 pounds, maybe. There's our main power switch. We're running at 12.9. I'm not sure if that's way too bright for the camera. Okay, so that's at 12.9 right now. We're going to go ahead and test everything, make sure it works. Now we've got the 12 volt inverter running through the cigarette lighter. This is our USBs. Now, that's what I like about these USBs. They are independently powered as well as the switch. If the switch is off, you don't have any USB power, hit your switch. You've got the option of choosing either one. There's your LED lights. Now, this is the part that I like about it, and this is what is just nice about a box like this. For plug and play options, my fish finder is bare wire. I'll be putting an SIE port on mine after this because this plug and play option is great. And go through, and we're running at 12.8 right now. So you want to charge the battery. You don't want to go through the hassle of pulling everything and taking everything out and stuffing everything back in again. It's real nice and simple. all we're going to do is take plug, turn that switch on, and we are at 13.3 and we are charging on the battery. You just plug that right into the wall, plug it into your box, and you are good to go. Alright, well, thank you everybody for checking the video out. I really do appreciate it. No, it's not my best work. I'm getting there, learning how to do the editing better, put some nicer videos together for everybody. Once again, this is Mario. Guys, like, subscribe, stay tuned for more. Put that little bell notification thing on. You guys take care. Thank you very much.